thrilled to welcome to the show an amazing musician, bass guitar player, Eric Pickfunk Smith, who has worked with so many different amazing artists like Rihanna and Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake and Lala Hathaway, and the list goes on and on. Eric also has his own band called Blind, and we're super excited to have him on the show. Eric, thanks so much for spending time with us.
Thank you for having me. This is really cool.
Awesome. So I have so many questions for you. The first one would be, did the bass guitar pick Eric, or did Eric pick the bass guitar?
I think it kind of picked me, honestly. I started off playing drums, but then the more I would play drums with bass players, I would just gravitate towards that. Like even the songs that I fell in love with, it was always the bass. Even like the complicated songs or the simple songs, like, even like My Girl, doom doom boom doom 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 doom. Hey, the bass starts, you know what I mean? Or I Want You Back, do 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 boom, do 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 boom 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 boom. I was like, yeah, I want to be that guy, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened.
Amazing. And I know you started off in the church. Now, did you get formal training for the bass, or you just learned it as you went along?
No formal training, like all just God given and just ears. That's pretty much it. Not one lesson.
Not one lesson. Wow. So yeah, I think the bass definitely did pick you. That's amazing. And so I know you mentioned you started on drums. Obviously drums and bass guitar, I think, are always like they go hand in hand, obviously, to keep the rest of the guys or the girls in step. Did you always sort of have like an affinity towards the drums as well? So, knowing that you guys kind of keep everything happening on the back end?
Absolutely, because I mean, drums and bass, that's the marriage. I mean, if you take both of those elements away, it's like no heartbeat, So I would say that playing drums first definitely gave me advantage in terms of like, just pocket and timing, that kind of thing. So, because I always think of my thumb almost like a kick drum, you know what I mean? So like, even if I'm playing a groove and I'm just playing notes, I'm always like, this never stops. Because it's always like my thumb is like my metronome. So I'm always thinking like a drummer. So definitely helps.
Now, when you were learning bass guitar, I know, again, you were in the church, but did you also start like learning like Jackson 5 songs? And like, what are the songs that you started to learn so that you knew how to play the bass?
Well, the first song that I ever learned how to play was a song by Cameo called She's Strange, and so it was technically, I guess, about 6 notes. Like 2 strings. Do do ba da ba da ba da ba da 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 do do do. That's pretty much the whole song. So and then I got into like the Motown stuff later. But the stuff that I started learning early on was pretty much gospel stuff. Like I love the group Commissioned, who was like Fred Hammond. That was his group or whatever. The Winans. Clark Sisters, like anything that was church. I mean, that's what we played on Sunday. So, and then it was quartet music, like Mighty Clouds of Joy, the Gospel Keynotes, Pilgrim Jubilees, that kind of stuff. So that's where I literally got my sound from. I mean, I was basically more quartet than choir though, because my dad, we were playing with his quartet group and I was playing drums with the group. So that was literally, and most of the musicians that are actually touring have a quartet background. So, and I hated it growing up. Like, I mean, quartet felt like a punishment, you know what I mean? Because it just wasn't fun to play, but I didn't realize how much that it was actually helping my playing. So
amazing. Now, as you were coming up, and I think was it in the Bay Area that you were coming up?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So as you were doing that, what did you consider your first big break or audition that, is the sort of first initial step to get you where you are right now?
Oh, my first audition was in the early 90s with Sheila E. So did that audition. It was a cattle call. It lasted for 2 days, but I got the call back to come back the next day. And so once I got that gig, from there, it was literally just networking. So, being on a tour, you might meet other musical directors like, yo, man, what are you doing for the next 6 months? Like, nothing. Want to do this tour? Sure. So it literally just happened like that. So my career has spanned about 30 years, and I could say that I've probably auditioned maybe 3 or 4 times.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing.
Everything else was just like, it's almost like you're auditioning on the job, you know. So like you're on the stage, like I like the way you play. So, you know, so
What would you, or what advice would you give to like a musician that's listening to you right now, who wants to have a career like Eric Smith has had? Is it to get in the church? Is it to like just try to get that first gig and then do the networking? And is the music industry small in Los Angeles? Like, is that how you kind of start to know everybody?
well, I think things have changed so much though, because like I said, when I was coming up, it was the whole network, you know, give you a business card and all that kind of stuff. Now social media is your best friend. You know, there's so many people that get discovered on social media. But I think you have to be careful of the message that you put out there too, because you can get labeled easily, you know, different ways. You can get labeled like, oh, this dude is super solid, or this dude is super busy, to the point people might not call you, because if you're only posting your dessert and your tricks, people don't know that you can actually play a song and just make a song feel good and not get bored. You know what I mean? So the beauty of my career was I learned early on, because like people call me pick funk because most of the stuff I was doing was like funk driven, you know, and I played with a guitar pick. So, but then I learned early on that every gig is not a funk gig, because I played with the Tony Rich Project, which was pretty much the closest thing to a country gig that I've ever done. So more like doom, boom, 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 play those notes and make it feel good and not like, oh my God, this sucks. You know what I mean? So, so I think if people just realize that, it's like, yo, social media is the biggest platform you have now. I mean, just like content. I mean, it's like you have people that have never been on the stage that have way more followers than I have, because they just keep posting every day, and eventually it'll you know, it'll catch on.
Now, after the Sheila E. gig, what was sort of next for you that was big and impactful in your life and career?
Tevin Campbell, that was the first time I worked with Chucky Booker, because he was the musical director, and that was the start. That was the time when I got a feeling that I'm like, I don't want this feeling to ever leave. It's almost like the first night, like the first arena that I played was in Minnesota Target Center. And so I can literally remember, like, you know, us going out there and the lights went off in the crowd. And you're like, let's go, you know what I mean? So I mean, you can't ever forget that. So Tevin Campbell, that was the first, you know, like I said, arena tour that I did. And Chucky Booker, like, I mean, I did a lot of stuff with him early on, you know. He was the first person I left the country with, you know. So did I answer that right?
That is perfect. That is great. And before moving on, because I do want to talk obviously about your time with Rihanna and Justin and then Janet, of course. What do you consider to be key assets to being a great bass guitar player?
I think key assets, first of all, is like your timing, you know, I mean, your tone. A lot of people forget that. It's like your tone is your footprint. I mean, your thumbprint. It's like, just like even with vocalists, I mean, even if you want to go vintage, like you can hear a song right away, oh, that's Luther Vandross, or you can hear a song right away, like, oh, that's Whitney Houston, or that's Gladys Knight, or that's Aretha, you know what I mean? Because there's a certain sound that separated them. Or like you, for bass players, you can hear a song like, oh, that's Marcus Miller, because he has his own sound. And so I think a lot of times people will gravitate towards certain things, like, you know, I want my bass to sound like that person. Like, okay, they're already established though, so you don't want to be that person. You want to, like, whatever your sound is. I mean, it could be anything. Just like my sound is like super clean, you know, and that's what I go for, because playing in arenas, playing with, you know, sometimes bands that has like a bunch of tracks, you want to be able to cut through the PA, as opposed to, you know, having like a lot of low end and they're turning you down because it's like, it's kind of muddy. So just you know, just having those details down, like, okay, having a good sound, knowing when to speak, knowing when not to speak, and that's on and off your instrument. I mean, that's a whole another lesson. So, and then another thing is just knowing that whatever you practice on, like at rehearsal, just play the same thing every night. And what happens is it becomes muscle memory. So you limit your mistakes, and then you don't actually play something that you think is great as a musician, but the artist might be like, that threw me off. You know what I mean? So, and then just try to always just keep the integrity of the music, because I think what happens as musicians, like we hear a lot of stuff and we want to get it out. And to other musicians, it might be like, whoa, that was crazy. But to the average listener, it's like, I mean, something sounded weird. You know what I mean? So I think in turn now, if we're talking about church and club, that's a whole another thing. Like, do you? But on these big stages, like when you talk, I mean, because there's a whole production, it's not about you anymore. So it's about the music and knowing what your role is in the band. And like bass and drums, like I said before, that's the anchor, that's the rock. So I think that marriage should really be solid, especially like in pop music, you know. So.
I wanted to ask you too, and I'm not sure what your experience with this, but is there a huge difference from playing like funk and R&B and pop stuff like a JT and a Janet and a Rihanna versus being like a bassist for a rock band like a Duff McKagan for Guns? Like, is it like a huge?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a huge difference, because I mean, and not to like to sound like an insult, but most of the musicians or the producers and music writers of pop music aren't real musicians. You know what I mean? It's like, I mean, you have kids that are super dope at, you know, writing and making beats. I mean, like they can do a whole record on GarageBand. So as opposed to like a lot of the rockers or whatever, like the musicians are the ones that are actually writing the music. So it's definitely more music driven. So when you're looking at like a Rihanna, for instance, like a song like Where Have You Been All My Life, I might not play most of the song, you know, and I might just come in like do 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 boom, now I'm out. You know what I mean? It's literally about parts. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, you know, like NBA basketball, like you can't have 5 Steph Currys on a team, it won't work. You know, somebody has to grab the rebound, somebody has to get the ball to him, somebody has to be a passer, you know, same thing. It's like you just have to know what your role is in that situation. Now, Justin Timberlake, on the other hand, you know, that tour was really musical. And Adam Blackstone, who was the music director, who's the one who gave me the call, shout out to Adam, like super dope musician. Like he's like incredible. So the way he puts shows together, it's like everybody is killing, but together. It's not like, okay, bass player, you go off on this song, guitar player, you go off on this song. Like, no, it's like everybody has a role, but when it comes together and then it's like we do lines, it might be a crazy line, but everybody plays the same line together, as opposed to like bass player just stepping out going crazy. You know what I mean? So
Okay. That's amazing. I am fascinated by musicians and how they all come together, especially like you said, for an arena tour where I think it's about the team to make sure that the artist stands out and sounds good. And so can you talk a little bit about, because I guess Rihanna came first for you, right, before Justin? So
right.
like how did that gig come about? How long were you with her?
Man, I was with Rihanna for almost 9 years. Like from literally, I was their first bass player from like SOS Pound to Replay era, before like, put it to you like this. Her manager at the time, Mark Jordan, he let me hear Umbrella before it came out. He was like, yo, man, this song's about to have us working for the next 2 years, right? And I learned on this day that I would be a horrible A&R, because I listened to the whole song, you know, Jay-Z does the rap. I'm like, meh. You know what I mean? It was like, and it did exactly what he said it would do. I mean, that was the song that had us like, we were everywhere. Like, I mean, I want to say that Good Girl Gone Bad tour lasted close to 2 years.
Crazy.
Yep, so, yeah.
Crazy. And what's it like to be on a Rihanna tour? Like what was Rehearsal like? And then also if you can speak a bit, because I know like obviously hers is a big production too, where it's kind of like Janet's, where there's band and dancers and all that sort of stuff, and you guys have to come together as one big massive unit.
Well, so rehearsals normally start like, you know, we get all the songs together that are options, you know, and so we'll get the songs ahead of time, and then, you know the music before you get to rehearsal, and then once we get to rehearsal, we start, you know, connecting the dots. So it's normally, you know, band, dancers have a separate room to rehearse in, and depending on the tour, I mean, rehearsals can be like 3 months long, you know what I mean? So like maybe the first 6 weeks is just band, band by themselves, just, having their own rehearsal. And then sometimes the artist might come in, it's like, okay, let's run this song. Okay, well, right here, I need you guys to do something because the choreography is doing blah, blah. If y'all gonna give me an accent right there, so then the MD's job is to say, okay, well, we finalized what the set is going to be. So now we have to put it in an order where it makes musical sense. And for us, we might be thinking like the keys of the songs and the BPMs, like, which songs will go into another song seamlessly. But then the artist might be like, well, I don't want to do that song right there because the subject title is different. Like, I'm talking about, I love you, but then this song is like, I want to stab you, you know what I mean? So I want to stab you later in the set, you know what I mean? So so just that stuff. And then with pop music, there's so many different channels. So you have the musical director, you have the artist, you have the creative director, you have the choreographer, and then you have management, then you have content. And generally, most time, nobody's never on the same page initially. So it's just like, tearing down the bricks. I'm trying to say bricks and blocks at the same time. So you just tearing stuff down like, okay, so now we have a set. So now let's just keep running stuff top to bottom, get it tight. And so normally everybody comes together like the last, I would say 30% of rehearsals or whatever. And so then it's just like, running top to bottom. And normally the last, I would say, week or so, that's when you do full production. They'll move us from out of just like a sound stage to maybe like an actual arena, and with the video wall and everything. And so yeah, I'll tell you a funny Janet story about that later. But
that's amazing.
Yeah,
and I wanted to ask you too, because I know you said you've never had like a formal bass like lesson with notes, but do you read notes, Eric? Or like, how do you learn a Rihanna song? Or is it just by listening?
Oh, that's all ears. Like, yeah, I mean, I've never had an artist send me sheet music. That's never happened. Like, I'll get sheet music on like a corporate gig, like, and it'll be funny because I'm like, we don't read, it's like you have ears, you know what I mean? But I'm like, don't send me charts for Billie Jean. Yeah. If I can't hear that, I don't need to be playing. You know what I mean? Like,
that's amazing.
Like, no.
Oh my God. We are so happy to have Eric Pickfunk Smith on the show with us. Don't forget to check out his website, pickfunk.com, for all of his social media handles. So back to Rihanna for just a sec. What was it like being on that tour, Eric? And I guess just if you can talk a little bit about touring in general, like being away from home so long.
Yeah, so being on tour, Rihanna was like, that was crazy just because remember when I was working with her, she wasn't a megastar. Like, she went to lunch with me. She rode with me in my car to go to like Porto's in Burbank, which is like a Cuban bakery. So to see her go from that to like, is absolutely crazy to me because she's still like little sis to me, you know what I mean? So, but touring with her, like, we literally became a family. Like, I remember one year being, we were all overseas for Christmas. And so we did Secret Santa, so everybody had to, get a gift. And like, I remember, we all literally sat in one room in a circle and we just went around saying what we were thankful for, and it's just like, and you hear the cliche, we're a family, that literally became my second family. And just like, so, in the tour, people are literally wiping tears, like, come on, man, man, call me. You know what I mean? So like, I feel like my family's breaking up. So yeah, but definitely a lot of fun times with her, pranks on stage, like horrible pranks on stage. I'm talking about like had a drummer like before a show, because like it would just be pitch black on stage. And so somebody went and put baby powder on his drums.
Oh no.
So, and we always were all black. And so hit the snare drum and this baby powder just went, just went everywhere. I was just like, y'all are stupid, So, like, you're playing a bass and somebody comes and just starts shooting you with a water gun and just like, this is electric, stop, So, yeah, but No, that tour was probably one of the funnest tours that I've ever been a part of.
Amazing. And I feel like Tina Landon was a part of that tour, right? Wasn't she as a
Yeah,
yeah?
she was our first choreographer for sure.
Amazing. Yeah, because we've had Tina on the show a bunch of times and she's awesome. And yeah, it hit me because I knew she was with Rihanna at the beginning, I think for 5 years before she moved on too. So that's amazing. And being on tour, Eric, what's it like for you to be away from home so long? And is the transition back to home like a bit of a, not a rocky road, but a challenge to settle yourself in again with your family and friends?
Well, I mean, it was pretty easy for me. Probably not so much for my family. But back then, we had like the whole Skype thing, and my son was growing up, so sometimes it would be hard for him because he got into sports, and I wouldn't be there, and that was a time where it started getting stressful for me because he's playing football and he gets an interception, runs it back for a touchdown. They're sending me video, and I like that they're keeping me involved, but on one hand, I'm just like, I'm sad. I'm like, do I should be there? But then we were able to accomplish a lot financially, and like the kid had 2 cars before he could even have a license. So, so just like, I mean, spoiled kid, but I mean, it got hard at times, but especially when I was going to be somewhere for like 4 or 5 days, I'll fly my wife in, so she could come hang out, like I remember one time we were in Paris and I actually flew her in a couple of days before I got there and paid for some touristy type stuff. And so she was cool with it. And she's been able to benefit from it too, but it's like, it's pretty much been like that the whole time. So, I mean, it's not too bad. I don't think it's as bad as like if I was in the army, where I'm just deployed for like a year straight, because our tours I think the most I was going at one time would be like 3.5 months, come home like a couple of weeks, then go back out type of thing. So.
Okay. I think I'm happy we're talking about this because I think a lot of times people don't realize the role that you guys have to take being on the road for so long and then being away from your families and then integrating and all that stuff. Because I think there's this romanticism about being on tour, which I think there's, like you said, there are massively good parts about it, but there is also that connection that you are away from your family and you have to have like your road family to kind of make up for that. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely sacrifices being made, and to keep it all the way honest with you, everybody can't do it. I mean, I know people have even told her, like, I don't see how you do it. I couldn't be a traveling musician or whatever because, you're alone so much. So, I mean, I get it. So it takes a special person to be able to even do what we do and somebody to even put up with what we do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not easy.
No, I'm sure not. Now you go from being with Rihanna for 9 years, and then how does like the Justin Timberlake thing come?
Another Adam Blackstone thing. So Adam was MDing Justin, and he was actually playing bass on the tour, and I can't remember what happened, but he was like, "Yo, man, I need you to come in and do this tour." So I literally never rehearsed with Justin. They were already on tour. So wow. He sent, it was funny when he sent me the show, I was like, all right, I got you, man, I'll do it. And so he sent me the show, and I was like, oh my God, what have I got myself into? I'm talking about, it was so much music. It was initially a 3-hour show, and every single song was really produced. I mean, and Adam was killing. I'm talking about like, I mean, he put his foot in that show. It's like, I mean, not where I would call it busy, but super musical. And the stuff that he was playing, I was like, I don't play like that. You know what I mean? So I called him. I was like, man, I don't know about this, Adam. Then he said, nah, man, I want you to do you. It's like don't do me, but do you. So I came in, I did my homework, and it turned out being great. And so it's funny, the first show I did, Justin waited for me in the hallway afterwards. He's like, hey man, I'm thinking like, uh-oh, what? He's like, you killed it. I was like, oh, thanks. He said, I just have one request. I'm like, what's that? Smile. I'm like, hey man, listen, it was so much music coming at me, man. It's like, I'm just literally like honed in to make sure that, I get comfortable for it. He said, hey man, listen, I just want you to have fun. it's like we're all artists up here. It's like we all make mistakes and we laugh about it. Say, I just want you to, we want to invite them to the party. So like any stress that I had up to that point went out the window because he was like so cool, so accommodating. Just like anytime we had a day off, like, hey guys, don't plan anything. I rented a yacht. I want to go hang out, like super cool guy.
Amazing. Actually, I'm glad you brought that up because there's so many things about Justin that I think people like either don't know or maybe don't know enough of, is that like what a great musician he is. Like how do you rate him as a musician? And because I know he obviously plays on tour with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, no, Justin is sweet. He plays some piano during the show, plays some guitar during the show, and I can honestly say I never heard him mess up and I never heard him pitchy. So I mean, I can't say that about every artist that I've worked with, but Justin is pretty solid, and has a lot of fun, and he's dancing the whole time, not lip syncing at all. He's doing a lot of choreography. Like I said, playing piano and guitar. And now Justin, he's a real deal. He's in that spot because he deserves to be there.
What's it like to get like I know you came in while they were already sort of out, but like being on a Justin tour, because like he is like a really great showman and he wants to not only showcase his singing and his dancing, but like the band as well. Cause you guys were called the Tennessee Kids, right? I think so.
Right.
So what is that like just being on that type of tour where, like you said, Adam had it so like down and musical and there were so many elements flying at you?
I mean, like I said, initially it was just like, kind of unnerving, but the good thing was they flew me out to Florida so I could actually watch the show for 2 days and see staging and all that kind of stuff. And then, a couple of the background singers and the dancers were really cool helping me out. Like, okay, let's go in the dress room. So you gotta do this. It's like, I'm like, okay, so I'm in my room, practicing because I'm not a dancer. You know what I mean? So, and the steps weren't crazy, but it looks good when everybody's doing it together, so I literally just did the homework and he made everybody was like a part of the show. It's almost like it started to feel like Justin Timberlake wasn't the artist, but Justin Timberlake was a band. You know what I mean? Or he was part of the Tennessee Kids, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Yep. So it was almost like, my name is on the ticket, but this is all of ours. So let's just go out and have fun. And
how long were you on that tour, Eric? Was it, because I remember seeing it in my hometown of Montreal, but like were you out over a year, like off and on, or?
You know what? I don't really remember. I didn't do the whole tour though, because I came in for North America, then I did like Australia and New Zealand, and Adam came back to do the end of it, because like when they did like all the Netflix special and all that kind of stuff, he was coming back either way, but yeah, so he did the last part. I don't even, it's like a blur, it's like, what was that, 14?
Yeah, 2014 is when I saw it.
I know we did like the Rock in Rio, all that kind of stuff, which was nuts. It's like, no, I mean, that's like, that was one of the, I mean, musically, one of the funnest tours, ever.
Yeah, well, even from an audience standpoint, like just going to that tour, it just looked like everybody, Justin and all of you were having like the best time, and it made us in the audience have like the best time.
Absolutely. Matter of fact, yeah, because when we did Canada, I remember we were somewhere in Canada and Bruno played the night before we played there. And so we went to Bruno's show, and that show was crazy too. Yeah, so at first I was like, did I go to Canada? But now I remember I did do the Canada run too.
Amazing. Have you played with Bruno Mars at all, like, and his band at all, or no?
No, my boy Jamario plays with Bruno. He's been there forever. Like, because I don't know if you remember when Diddy did Making His Band.
Yeah.
Jamario was on that show, and he actually won, and he went straight from there to Bruno.
Oh, crazy. Oh, that's amazing.
As far as I know, Bruno's never had another bass player.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. I wanted to ask a little bit about, and we'll get more into this with Janet's stuff, but for wardrobe for you guys in the band, normally it is like all white or all black or whatever, but like, have they ever put you in anything crazy where it was like not comfortable to play?
Well, Justin, we were wearing like tuxedos. It was like Tom Ford stuff, and to play in a suit with dress shoes isn't the most ideal thing for a show that long. But like normally I don't sweat, but I used to feel bad giving my suit back to wardrobe after the show. Like, sorry, it's like, but no, I mean, normally, I mean, wardrobe is pretty cool. I mean, they always take into account, what your instrument is. Like, like they might let the drummer wear shorts. You know what I mean? Just so your foot doesn't get caught in the kick drum, all that kind of stuff. Or everyone might be wearing long sleeves, but since I'm playing bass, they might like cut my sleeves. So it just depends. I mean,
Okay.
normally they accommodate. It's not crazy.
Now, as I mentioned to you in my email when we were communicating, so many of our listeners right now are massive Janet Jackson fans. So I've got a bunch of Janet questions for you. So first of all, how did Janet come to you? Because you've been with her since 2015, right? So that's a while now.
Yeah, another Adam Blackstone. Tell you, Adam is killing it. Like, so if I'm not mistaken, Adam got the Janet gig because he was MDing Kanye on the Glow in the Dark tour, and Janet came to the show, and she was just like, "Wow, it's amazing. Who's MD?" So Adam put that show together, and so Adam's in the space now where he's putting so many shows together, like the Super Bowl, I mean Grammys, Emmys, like I think I want to say like is it Masked Singer? Not one of those shows. So he asked me to come in and do that. So yeah, so I've been there ever since.
And what was it like? Were you a Janet fan before you met her? I feel like you probably were, but like, were you?
Well, I've always loved anything Minneapolis. So I was a Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis fan, period. The stuff they did with the time, anything with Jimmy and Terry on it, because they were musicians, you know what I mean? And so, and then my friends Chucky Booker and Derek Allen, all those guys, they did the Rhythm Nation tour, and actually went to go to that tour, and I met Janet back then, and I was just like, oh my God, it's like, I mean, just banger after banger after banger. So to fast forward, almost 30 years, and to get that call, it's like, it's surreal. Like, I don't believe it was happening until the first show. I mean, just be honest, I was like, I'm actually playing with Janet. It's like, and she's a sweetheart. Oh, so here's my Janet story. This is actually funny. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get this bass made just for this tour. The first tour was called Unbreakable. So, like, cool. So we rehearsed 10 weeks, I think. So it was like translucent orange with the matching headstock. I mean, bass sounded great. I remember when I first got the bass, Adam was at rehearsal, and Adam started playing it. He was just like, bro, this is crazy. I'm like, sounds good, right? So we rehearsed, like, and mind you, it took like 3 months for them to build that bass. So we do like 9 weeks of rehearsal. The last week we get to full production arena. So Janet goes to front of house so she can watch the show, and the choreographer is standing in place of her, just doing all her moves, whatever. So finish the run through, she's like, Eric, you're gonna kill me. I was like, for what? It's like, I love the way your bass sounds, but you can't play it. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, because even when the stage goes dark, it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It's like this bright orange guitar. Like, do you have any black guitars? And I didn't have any black guitars. So I was just like, no. So that's my funny Janet story. But it's like the way she came, like, don't be mad at me. I was like, I'm not gonna be, how am I gonna be mad at Janet? Just like, So yeah, it was, no, but she's great though. She's a sweetheart. Like, she's exactly how everybody thinks she is.
That's
like
amazing.
like super shy. Like, I remember when she did something, and I was just like, wow, thank you so much. You totally didn't have to do it. I really appreciate it. She's like, okay, now you're embarrassing me. I'm like, are you kidding me? So like, no, super sweet.
What was it like too for her? Because again, Eric, you were with her, like, she'd been gone for like 4 years, like, meaning living her life and doing what she needed to do. But her last tour before the 2015 was like, I think 2011 was the number ones tour.
Right.
So like she'd been, off stage for a while. What was that rehearsal like? And was she nervous? Like, and I hate, she never went anywhere, but coming back, like, what was that not like?
You know what? Like, You know, because we even took a break from Unbreakable to State of the World when she had her baby, and her snapback game is next to none. Like, so I've never seen her in an uncomfortable space or like nervous or whatever. It's just like even when, you know, like if she feels like I want to drop a little weight or whatever, it's like she just does it. Like it seems like dang, like you just got rocked up in the last 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like she literally goes really hard with her regiment, with her choreography, with, you know, her eating. It's like, no, she's Janet Jackson for a reason. Let me just say that. It's like, I mean, so no, she's fearless. I mean, I don't know anybody, especially at this age, that goes as hard as she does.
Amazing.
So no, she's a Jackson for a reason.
What is your favorite Janet song to play when you're on stage?
What's funny is probably one of the songs that we don't even play anymore. She has a song called Truth. That's like, it's like a ballad, but it's just super dope to me because it feels like especially like the vamp feels like a church song. But then it's like, you know, I like When I Think of You. I like Nasty, Miss You Much, All Right. You know, it's just like all those songs are obviously bass, you know what I mean? It's like bass driven. And what else? Rhythm Nation.
I actually wanted to ask you about Rhythm Nation because, like, obviously that's like, you know, she has many signature songs, but that's like the signature song. And so when you're on stage and you're watching, you're a part of it, obviously, and the energy is ridiculous. What's it like for you to see the audience? Like, because her fans, like they're a special breed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm talking about, there are fans of hers that travel from like, okay, there are some people specifically in the UK. I can't tell you how many shows they've been to it, front row, and to the point, like, I mean, I always just go on speak like, hey, how you guys doing? It's like, I'm like, how much money are you guys spending? You know what I mean? It's like, so, and when you see people doing the choreography, I mean, and people coming there, even guys dressed up like her, you know, like with the Rhythm Nation outfit with the black hat on. It's like, I mean, it's crazy. No, she's a legend, and it shows just by, you know, how people, you know, the way people turn up. And it's like, even when it's not just her show, like we just did Essence Festival in New Orleans, and that was crazy. You know, Kentucky Derby, Cincinnati Jazz. It's like, you know, she has fans that, like, I mean, you gotta think she has what, almost 4 decades worth of hits, you know, so.
What was Essence like? Because, and I also saw some video, like some fan footage of I think her being brought into the arena for Cincinnati. And like there was like, that was like an arena, that was like a football stadium, was it not, where you guys were playing? Like there was like what, 48,000 people there or something crazy. And
Yeah, that's
so
what I think play.
what is that like? What was that like? Especially, was that this was obviously her first gigs like since pandemic too, right? So what was it like to be back together again?
I mean, it's great. You know, I mean, we went into rehearsals. Where did we rehearse at? LA. So, because the first show was it Kentucky Derby?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was Kentucky Essence, and then you finished with Cincinnati, right? I feel like that was the order.
Yeah, but then we did a private show in Vegas too. So that was right before Essence, because we flew from Vegas to Essence. But no, I mean, honestly, those shows felt like we never left. It's like, it wasn't rusty at all. You know, we had 4 male dancers, but the last show we had, I want to say 3 guys and 3 girls. So not a lot changed for us. I mean, we changed some of the set, obviously, but I mean, it's seamless. You know, it's pretty much like we never left. I mean, it's like we're all pretty cohesive.
The band has been pared down from what she had before. Like she had, like, if you think about the Velvet Rope tour, she had, I think, like an extra couple of people like in the band. So now it seems like it's you, it's Errol, it's Daniel. What's that like? And you guys have been together for a while in this. So like, how's the vibe go with you guys rehearsing for a Janet tour? And then what's it like when does she come in and start rehearsing with you? And what's that vibe like?
Well, believe it or not, sometimes like she'll just rehearse on her own. and just do like, spend most of her time doing choreography, but then the earlier tours we spent a lot more time together, you know what I mean? So I think because visually that's always really a focal point, because like the singing, the band, that's going to be there, because it's just like, I mean, we can all, do that at home, but like what she's known for, and just like pop in general, it's just pretty much, they want to, the crowd want to do those dances with you, so yeah, so we don't like I said, it really depends on the tour, sometimes we'll spend a lot more time together, and then other times, maybe not as much, because she might be at her other spot with her choreographer.
And what's it like to, because I know, well, I have a two-part question. I know that when you started with her in Unbreakable, Little John was still drumming for her, and
Right.
now you've got a new drummer. So is it, and I know you played with so many different musicians, so I'm sure you're very easily able to, go off with someone else, but like,
Mhm.
was the transition between her drummers like seamless and it's all good?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think the beauty of just playing, just growing up in church, it's like, everybody's approach is different. You might play with, especially when drummers weren't playing with loops or like click tracks and all that stuff. So you might play with a drummer who has a tendency to speed up, or a drummer that has a tendency to slow down. But now, we're all playing with click tracks or whatever. And so like the guy who's been playing, who just did the last 4 days, Spanky, he's a Philadelphia guy too. So even though him and Lil Jon, they sound different, but I feel like the approach is similar. You know what I mean? So but I mean, Lil Jon's, I mean, he's a legend in his own right too. He's a bad dude. So I mean, I, I've been blessed to play with a lot of drummers who are all great. They just speak differently. You know what I mean? So every drummer that I played with on this gig has been dope. So um it's just different. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a better or worse thing. It's like, because one guy might hit the snare harder than the other guy. It's like, I just tell that guy to turn the snare up or down. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's pretty seamless.
And what's it like too having active with you guys on stage, like spinning and stuff, and how that's integrated into the band?
He's the coldest DJ. Like, Active is, I mean, that's the bro. He's amazing. Like a lot of times I'll just listen to what he's doing, and he's literally like a musician, because you have DJs that can spin records, but he is literally the fifth musician up there, because like we can literally stop and like Actor, what you got? 1, 2, 3, 4, and he'll drop a record that it might be a 40-year-old loop, but it's just like, whoa, you know what I mean? It's like, and it's dead on, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, he's on something else. I work with a lot of DJs, but he's like the DJ that he's definitely like a musician. And it's not just him scratching or whatever, because he doesn't even do a whole lot of that in the show. But yeah, he's great.
And what's it like when, I know you said Janet doesn't spend, as much time with you guys, maybe as the dancers with the choreography and all that stuff, but when she is rehearsing with you, from what I gather in the past, like she knows what she wants. So like, how does that go when she is talking to you guys, and like what she wants for each tour, and just the direction, and like, and obviously she has musicianship herself. So
Right. Well, I mean, normally that goes through Daniel Jones, so by the time we get there, it's like, I mean, and Daniel's really vocal. It's like, exactly how he speaks, and the angle that he's coming from. So it's super easy. You know what I mean? It's like Daniel's like great. I mean, super creative. I mean, love working with him as an MD as well. He's one of my favorites. So they have a great relationship. So they'll talk and get something down conceptually what they want to do, and then he'll like, okay, here's the map, let's go. And he'll do sketches at home or whatever, which will mean like, okay, so this song might have an arrangement, and he'll just send all that stuff ahead of time. So by the time we get to rehearsal, we're playing it, and we might do a little tweak here and there, like, okay, let's change that to this. And so by the time she gets in, I mean, I don't recall her ever not liking something musically. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I don't like that, so we've been pretty fortunate in that regard, because like I said, her and Daniel, you know, lay out the map before, and then it's like, so by the time we get in, we kind of know, you know, and he knows her, so he's like he might say something like, "Nah, let's not do that," you know what I mean? But yeah,
Okay.
so no, it's that part has been super seamless.
And have you also, because I know like on, you know, I've seen all the tours with her, and I know like on, for example, the All For You tour back in 2001 and two, she, you know, like sometimes she would tweak a song a little bit to give it a little bit of a different vibe or whatever. But I've
Mhm.
heard through Tina Landon that, you know, Janet's very particular about making sure that the music is very recognizable because the fans, you know, hear the record, they should hear the record when it's on stage. So is that kind
Absolutely.
of is she still following that MO?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like she might let us do a little bit of a flip, and what that might means damn, I'm stuttering today. I don't know what's wrong with me. So
All good.
so that could mean just say like in the Bay Area, you have Too Short, right? So you know that song you did called Blow the Whistle, right?
Mhm.
So when we came to the Bay, I want to say on Nasty, like when we was like, who's that thinking nasty thought, right? So we played Blow the Whistle over there. Boom, 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 boom. Crowd went crazy. But it's literally like for about 12 bars, and then we're right back to the song. You know what I mean? So that's almost like a little DJ moment. But in terms of like the song, we're definitely going to play the record before we do anything else, you know. So that's, yeah, I mean, that's still relevant right now. So um if we're doing When I Think of You, I'm like boom 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 boom. I can't boom boom boom, like what is that? You know what I mean? So because soon as the song comes on, the crowd should know what it is, you know. And you know, and Jimmy Jam still comes to rehearsal periodically, so he'll be the one to be like, no, no, that's wrong. This is what that is. You know what I mean? So yeah, so the integrity of the music is always going to be in place with her, if that's the question. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, that's cool because I know that yeah, like I've heard from Tina in the past that she always wants to make sure that the fans are feeling, you know, relatable to what they've heard before and all that
Absolutely.
stuff. Actually, and what's your thoughts too on Janet as just a vocalist? Because you know, like I know Jimmy has said to me on this show before that he thinks like a huge reason why Janet resonates with so many people is that like you can sing with her, like not where like she's Whitney Houston, where it's like, you know, not everybody can pull off a Whitney, you know.
Mhm.
And so what's your thoughts on Janet as vocalist?
I mean, I think she's super consistent, and I've always felt that about music in general. And like when you look at singers that have all the, you know, vocal acrobatics, all the runs, and you know, like, you know, I mean, I don't want to call any names out, but a lot of people that sing like that don't really scratch the surface, and they wonder, like, you know, why can I be bigger? And it's like, you know, like I'll sing rings around that artist, or you know, that like she can't sing, like she don't want to go up before me, or she don't want me to open for her because she knows that I'll kill her. But I think it's almost like when you look at music lovers, they're kind of like babies. You know what I mean? It's like, so you don't want to bring a baby home from the hospital and give them a steak. You give them milk. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's how music is. So a lot of times I feel like Janet could do a lot more. You know, she could have sang a lot more on records, you know, that would have maybe impressed other singers, but the average listener might be like, you know what I mean? Even when you look at like Luther Vandross, Luther wasn't singing crazy stuff. I mean, his tone is what, you know, made you fall in love with him. Same thing with Janet. You know, as soon as the song comes in, that's Janet. You know, and I think her voice is like super iconic, and it's like she's done some stuff that's going to be here forever. So even when she's dead and gone, it's like she has hit records that if you play in a club, they're still going to bang out. You know what I mean? So I agree with Jimmy wholeheartedly on that. You know.
And before we move on from Janet, I wanted to ask you again, for all the fans that love her and are watching right now, what is Janet like as a boss and a friend? Like, you know, what do you want the fans to know about Janet?
I want y'all to know that Janet is exactly how y'all think she is. You know, like, oh, she seems so shy, and it's like she seems like she's so sweet. Always smells good. It's like, dang, do you just bathe in roses? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's like always super, super sweet. I actually got sick when we were in Vegas at the residency. And she sent, you know, she sent roses and, you know, just sent well wishes or whatever, because they still had 2 shows left. I had to miss the last 2 shows. I had to have emergency surgery. So, but yeah, I mean, she's a sweetheart. I mean, super accommodating. You know, like when we did Vegas, for instance, you know, I had booked a family vacation like a year prior. And so that meant that I would have to miss like a week of production rehearsal. And so when they call me, I'm like, I can't miss my family vacation, you know, just because, I mean, like I said before, we always sacrifice and do all this kind of stuff. And so I'm like, you know, my dog is by the door, like he needs to go out. So yeah, but no, Janet is amazing. Kane, come here. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, so now she's like, you know, super accommodating, super sweet. She actually, you know, cares that, you know, we all are, you know, tight and like a family unit. And, you know, like when we have days off, she's arranged stuff like, you know, a night of bowling or, you know, just like, or we all go out to dinner, you know, so no, she's a sweetheart.
And how I wanted to ask you too, during the time of the pandemic, you know, because I work in the radio industry, I'm a radio announcer, and you know, we heard, you know, it's obvious so many musicians, like just there were no concerts to play, there were no shows to perform at. How challenging was it for you as a musician to get through those 2 years, like where before the shows came back? Like, and what do you want people to know about musicians?
Oh, I mean, for me, I mean, I was good, you know, just because I've never been the type of musician that banked on touring. You know, it's like, you know, I've pretty much, you know, invested, you know, some rental properties. You know, I'm doing a clean and sober living, you know, so I have other streams of income. And then, you know, I play at church when I'm home. So, and my wife, she's been working from home, you know, due to her job, you know, so it's actually been really cool. It was at first I was just like, this is gonna suck, but it was cool. It brought us closer, actually. You know, I mean, spent a lot more time together, and you know, financially we didn't really suffer. You know, I know some musicians, you know, did, but and there's other things you can do. I mean, people still working on records, so I mean, I can you know record a whole record from home and just have somebody, you know, Venmo me or Cash App me or whatever. So yeah,
And I also wanted to ask you too about your band Blind. So what's going on there? Do you have shows coming up over the next little while, and where can people check you out?
Yeah, so it's actually legally blind, like, but blind with a Y, BLYND. So so this is what my band consists of. So Arrow is actually my band. He's my guitar player. John Jubu Smith is our other guitar player, lead singer, who happens to be my brother. And then Chris Johnson is our drummer. He plays with Lady Gaga. Matter of fact, I just saw them last Thursday in San Francisco. So yes, so Chris Johnson, you know, plays with Gaga, and then our organist, he plays with Frankie Beverly and Mays. So the problem is everybody's touring, so it's kind of hard, you know, to get together. But we did do a show in June in Stockton, California. That was crazy. So yeah, the band is a really, really good band. It's like, you know, kind of soulful and bluesy, and the reason that we called it Legally Blind is because a while ago somebody was like, well, what's the genre, you know, like what kind of music is it? And we were thinking about it, like, well, we have some stuff that sounds bluesy, some stuff that sounds R&B-ish, got some stuff that sounds a little rock, so you can't really put us in a box. So like, we're blind to genres, you know what I mean? So that was the whole premise of the name.
That's cool. That's awesome. And have you guys do you have an album at all that you would ever work on, or
So
stuff
we
like
actually
that?
have two albums. The first one is just self-titled Legally Blind, and then the second one is entitled You. And both of those are on Apple Music and iTunes.
Amazing.
And CD Baby, you can get it there. I mean, I know nobody plays CDs anymore, but
I do.
it's there.
I
Yeah,
still
I
do.
actually miss CDs, just hearing a record and being able to look inside, seeing who's playing on it, that type of stuff.
Yeah. I still admit, like, I'm a liner girl. Like, I love reading liners and like who's done what on who's done production, like all that stuff. So
Absolutely.
that's I'm right. I'm there with you. And before I let you go, what else is coming up for Eric Smith? Like, what do you want your fans to know? What's going on?
Well, so I just did my first promotion. So this past Sunday, the 11th, I did a show with Chucky Booker. So Chucky Booker used to be Janet's musical director, and from there he's done everybody from Lionel Richie to Avant to Faith Evans, Tina Turner, just a bunch of people he's worked with. So I've been talking to him for like the last few years, like, yo, man, you got to do another record. You have so much left to say. It's like, I mean, the industry needs you. And, so he's finally, got it like, oh, I'm gonna do another record. So he's almost done with this record. And he introduced some new music, and the show was absolutely insane. I mean, like, I sold the place out and I knew it would be good, but it exceeded my expectations. I'm like, it's scary. Like, Chucky Booker's new stuff is scary. So, I mean, be on the lookout for that. And I'm definitely going to be working with him in some capacity, like behind the scenes stuff, not on stage. So, like I said before, just like, I've always just been the type of person just like, okay, what other streams of income can I do, because I don't want to rely on this, because I mean, I'm 51 years old now.
You do not look 51 at all. So keep going.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So, I'm just saying, it's like, I don't, there are a lot of young musicians that are coming out that are going to want to do these tours for half the money. So I'm like, you go right ahead. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna work on this side. I'm still going to play though, but not to say that I'm retiring anytime soon, but yeah, just doing something else.
And
So,
is there an artist too that you because obviously you played with the big ones for sure, but is there someone right now that you would love to play with that you haven't yet? Like, go on tour with them, or even just do like a Vegas date or something?
it would have to be like, I mean, because I think as far as the music side of it, I've pretty much done the fun stuff that I wanted to do. So if I'm thinking like financially, that's something different. Like, like on some Rolling Stones or, something like that. Cause I mean, like one of those stadium tours where they just keep their people on salary type of stuff. I mean, I would love to do something like that, but, or just a rock tour in general, where you could just like do anything you ever wanted to do, run across the stage full speed. You know what I mean? It's like throwing water on a crowd. It's like my shirt off, showing my fat navel. You know what I mean?
I don't know. You look pretty buff to me every time I've seen you on stage. So I think you're good.
Oh, well, I mean, that's not the case, but thank you. I appreciate it. Your check being in the mail.
That's it. That's what I do. I check out the bass player. Don't tell anyone. Eric, it's been so great to have you on the show. And again, I just want to remind everybody before we wrap up that pickfunk.com is where they find you and all your social media handles. And I have to give you a shout out for your website, because I think it's great that you have a website and it's up to date and people can learn about you, because I think a lot of times people don't know the musicians behind the artists. So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me. This has been great. I'm definitely going to be checking for you, Kelly Alexander. If I didn't know before, I know now for sure. So, and if I get over there anytime soon, I'll definitely look you up.
Amazing. Eric, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, it's Kelly. Thank you so much for hanging out and watching and listening to our interviews. We always appreciate your time. Please make sure to follow us on our YouTube channel, and also hit up our website so that you can subscribe to our newsletter so you are always up to date with everything that we have got going on with the show. KellyAlexanderShow.com/subscribe.